For my next tutorial, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to make modular room pieces. So I already have a modular corridor set. Here you see my straight piece. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make another box, and this one is going to be 400 squared. Although for the height I'm going to make it negative 40 and hit create. So this is going to be my floor and my ceiling. That's what I'm going to utilize this piece for. It's going to be it's going to serve a dual purpose. So because I used keyboard entry, it's defaulted to sitting here in the center of the map. So its origin is at 0, which is exactly where I want it. Now with my FFD modifiers, I'm going to go and zoom out here. I'm going to do the same thing I've done in the past, where I move this over to get it up into positive space. Moving these up to 400, 0, and 0. There we go. Alright, so this guy right here, that's my floor. And I'm going to come in, and once again, I'm going to make another piece. And this guy is only going to be 400 tall, but his width is going to be different. So we'll just go ahead and, oops, box. Gotta actually hit create, don't we? Make its height 400 and hit create. Alright, so once again, let's convert them to edit poly. I'm going to call this piece wall. And we're going to use our FFD modifier. So let's go ahead and we'll move this. Oops. Gotta make sure we're in the sub object so we can select the control points. And so we'll move this over to 400. Move this to 0. And this one, I'm going to put it at negative 10 and at positive 10. I'm going to give us some thin walls that are only 20 centimeters thick. I think that'll be fine. Now, here's something we have to consider. Our floors actually have thickness to them, right? Which is why I purposely made our floor 40 units thick. So what I'm going to do here is, for my wall piece, in case I want to stack two walls on top of each other, I need to compensate for the fact that there actually is a floor underneath it. So I'm going to select that bottom polygon, and I'm going to extrude that down 40 units. Because 40 is going to be the thickness that we're going to utilize for our floors. That way, if you have, for example, another floor that's sitting above, right, the floor thickness, there's the ceiling, the floor thickness is there. So that way, if we take our wall piece and we stack two on top of each other, the floor thickness is compensated for. Okay, so let's get rid of that. All right, so here's our wall. And while we're doing this, why don't we go ahead and we're going to do a UVW map. And we're just going to set it to box. And we'll square it off at 400 squared and go into the gizmo. And we'll set it so that it's squared off, it's centered in that 200, 200 space. And in much the same way we were copying our symmetry, we're going to copy that UV gizmo. And we're going to assign it to our different pieces that we're building, so that we're getting consistent UV tiling frequency across our different mesh pieces. So here's a wall. One thing that we're also going to need is we're going to need a doorway. So I'm going to clone this as doorway, but I'm going to set it to copy and say OK. I'm going to hold Control to select the hallway piece and do heights unselected. So OK, here's our doorway. If we come to the front, I'm just going to use my edges here, and I'm going to connect 2 times. I'm just going to pinch it to slide it over. Now I don't need to perfectly cut it out. I can have a doorway that's slightly open like this. And then I'm going to connect it one more time, but this I'm going to set to 1 and just use the slide functionality to move it up. So our doorway will be a little bit lower. Okay. All I need to do is just, I'm going to go into select so I don't accidentally move anything. Select this doorway, delete it, and then I just grab my open edges here and bridge them. There we go. And I can just paste that UVW map on, fits there just fine, and just convert that to an edit poly. Okay, so now I have a floor, I have a doorway, and I also have a wall piece. So let's unhide by name. Let's unhide our wall. So if I wanted a 2-story wall, I would need to first off clone this piece. So let's clone it as wall underscore 2s and say OK. And so the same rules would apply. I select this one polygon on the top, and I'm going to extrude him up 40 units because I need to compensate for the thickness of the floor. And then I'm going to extrude him up 400 units for the actual next flight up. Okay. Same thing, I could paste that UVW map on there and convert that to an edit poly. Now I could continue going through and making variant pieces like this. Like I could take my, if I go to wireframe, I'm going to hide unselected. I could clone my doorway here as a copy and call it doorway 2s. And just grab those those polygons in the top, and I could extrude those up 40 units. And then I can extrude them up another 400. Of course, if I wanted to, I could just stack them manually with pieces. It all kind of depends on the sort of look that I'm going for. Just remember, every time you make a new piece, you're going to want to paste. You're going to want to make sure you update your UVWs on them. All right. Okay. All these pieces will also, of course, need light maps. So you're going to want to make sure that you go through the process of switching to the second map channel and using flatten mapping on them. I'm not going to go through it and do it for all the pieces here in this demo. You will need to do that. Now, a piece like this, you would have to go through and build unique collision geometry for it, whereas a piece like the wall, a regular wall piece, this could just use the automatic geometry. I'm going to do unhide by name, and I'm going to select my wall, my floor ceiling, my doorway. So I got wall, doorway, and that's it. So these would be all of my room pieces. And so I would go ahead and export those out. The only change here, the one thing to call out probably would be that for my floor and ceiling, I would probably want to set up, I'd probably want to utilize my multi-sub-object material on it. So if I select that and assign a material to it, I would go ahead and just want to make sure I have the proper IDs on it. So whatever ID was the one I was using for my floor, I want to make sure that was on there. And the same one for my ceiling. The other sides, I would probably just set those to be my trim texture, and then get those UVs appropriately applied to it. I think that one almost looks okay. So chances are you're not going to see the side of this. You'll probably build a custom piece to go around. So basically that's the steps. You would then select these and export them out, and then build any variation pieces that you wanted. If you wanted to make a window piece or anything of that nature, you would go ahead and build those pieces as well.